In this two-part overview, we'll highlight the setup and configuration that must be completed by an administrator before reconciliations can be performed. In Part 1, we'll look at configuring system settings, periods, formats, and users. In Part 2, we'll discuss importing profiles, configuring data loads, importing currency rates, and creating reconciliations for a period. We also discuss opening the requirements for training users and completing acceptance testing. Before you begin the setup and configuration, you must decide how to configure the system to best achieve your organizational objectives, and then collect all data that is required. This process will take the most amount of time. After all decisions have been made and the required data is collected, you can easily perform all setup and reconciliation tasks in a limited amount of time. Configure system settings, periods, formats, and users, import profiles, configure data loads, import currency rates, create reconciliations for a period, open the period, and run data loads. From the main screen, select Settings to access your configuration activities on the Configure tab. The System Settings link contains many different configuration settings. This is where you'll define the number and type of segments used in your account IDs. You'll configure the frequencies with which reconciliations are performed, the currency buckets included in the reconciliation process, the rate types used for foreign exchange translation, and the currencies you would like activated in the system. You need to define the reconciliation processes that are in effect, and the risk ratings and account types to be used for account classification and reporting. You can also configure calendars, holiday rules, and organizational units, which are essential for those planning to use holiday-based scheduling. Additional minor configuration settings are available to determine how the system behaves in a number of different areas and fine-tune the reconciliations. On the New Periods screen, you configure the periods pertaining to reconciliation. You can start with just 1 or 2 periods and then add periods as needed. For each period, you'll define the start and end dates, as well as the dates that books are closed for each period, and the frequencies associated with each period. Formats are assigned to define the reconciliation, including the following information: properties, such as the reconciliation method, instructions and any associated reference files, attributes, questions to be answered by the selected user when working with a reconciliation, selected rules to apply to the reconciliation, and a history of changes to the format. The ultimate goal is to provide a robust preventative control structure to ensure that every reconciliation that is created actually qualifies as a proper reconciliation. A library of standard formats are available to use as a starting point. Start with an initial set, and you can revise and adapt that set as needed. You can create user assignments to assign an individual or a team or group to perform a specific function on a reconciliation. The user configuration involves adding and provisioning users, but may also involve defining the teams responsible for performing reconciliation functions. In Part 1 of this topic, we discussed configuring system settings, periods, formats, and users for reconciliations. In Part 2, we'll look at importing profiles, configuring data loads, importing currency rates, and creating reconciliations for a period. We will also discuss opening the requirements for training users and completing acceptance testing. To learn more, visit cloud.oracle.com.